Enough of landslide in China. We're moving on to DEADMAN walking Texas tornado. The worst tornado F5 in history.
May 27th, 1997.
That's
a
old.
tornado was photographed in the high plains of Jarrell, Texas. 23 seconds later, another photo. And a couple minutes later, another. What the photographer didn't know was in just 8 minutes, 27 lives would disappear. Literally. In the days leading up to the ominous tornado photo, forecasts being issued for areas around Jarrell, Texas, highlighted a high likelihood of thunderstorms and a possibility of a couple of tornadoes. This prompted the SPC, or the Storm Prediction Center, to release a moderate risk for the local area. But this weather pattern near Texas was not really concerning, and it's honestly pretty usual for the area. By May 27th, the residents of
Chad, I'm curious, are there more tornadoes in Texas versus like Oklahoma? I feel like the one that we watched from Oklahoma, that one was very big. It was a really fast tornado as well.
Jarrell are greeted by tranquil blue skies. For many residents of the town, poor weather was hardly evident, let alone the risk of tornadoes. But by noon, the predicted storms began to pop up to the northeast. Although the storms were very strong, the risk of tornadoes was still expected to be relatively small. But unbeknownst to both meteorologists and residents, subtle yet concerning fluctuations began to occur in the atmosphere around the storms. While small and difficult to notice, these fluctuations should be insignificant, but with a perfect mix of ingredients, they can cause huge problems. Suddenly, a deadly scenario begins to reveal itself. A single storm quickly becomes dominant just to Jarrell's northeast, near Waco, Texas, and it begins to move towards the southwest. This is the opposite direction of how a typical thunderstorm would travel, which placed the otherwise unthreatened residents of Jarrell and surrounding areas in the firing line of a rapidly intensifying storm. At 1 p.m. CDT, a funnel cloud appears from the sky. And
that's one of the first signs that you need to get away. But at the same time, like, if you caught up in the circles, you know, like storm chaser and stuff like that, it's gonna be hard to get out. We saw the other video.
A full tornado dropped down near Moody, Texas. The tornado meandered around a mobile home before destroying it and then immediately dissipating. This odd tornadic behavior would certainly not be a first on this day. Another tornado drops down from the supercell, and then another.
That looks like smoke almost.
And another. All beautiful and all incredibly weak. By 3 o'clock p.m., the storm is only 5 miles northeast of Jarrell and is drawing closer. It is now.
Alabama and Oklahoma have recorded the most violent tornadoes since 1950. Yeah, Oklahoma, yeah, for sure. I haven't seen one from Alabama yet, actually.
When the odd weather conditions start to display, as in an instant, a needle-like tornado reaches down from the storm clouds. Although rather small, its size is deceitful.
It's so fast! Look at them go!
Winds are already very intense. Any hay bales or trees, unfortunate enough to be struck, are shredded instantly. This shredding of anything it could touch shrouded the base of the funnel in dust.
Yeah, funnel cloud.
Passes less than 1,000 yards near the small community of Prairiedale. A farmstead is struck. The tornado is now
look at the breeze going out. I mean, all tornadoes are scary, but this one in particular is called the DEADMAN walking. So maybe because anyone who sees a tornado is a DEADMAN walking. Yeah, like you're cooked, you know? Yeah.
Dangerous. As it's shrouded in sharp
Reaper
metal
walking
and
tornado,
wood.
Yeah.
But just as it seemed the tornado was intensifying,
look at all of that debris.
The residents of Jarrell took a sigh of relief, believing they had just narrowly avoided disaster. But little do they know, Mother Nature is playing a cruel trick. In less than a minute, a stronger dust cloud swirls up from the ground. A large, cone-shaped funnel begins to descend from the sky. Within the swirling chaos, a strange phenomenon is spotted. Several different funnels begin to appear, forming the distinct look of a multi-vortex tornado, a unique and intense type of tornado. Scott Beckwith is working at Jarrell Farm Supply when over the business's weather radio, he hears word of a tornado in Jarrell. Stepping outside, he rounds the building to the east end, where he quickly spots the massive snake slithering in the sky. In a rush, he runs back in and grabs his camera, taking pictures of what he's
there
seeing.
We go.
The first image looks straight out of a movie, and the ones following show a gorgeous twister dancing around in the sky.
Very skinny.
A brief gap occurs in the images until the next one is taken, but this one showed something much more sinister. What was initially a small rope tornado has now formed into a messy and large vortex with copious amounts of dust spraying outwards. In the next image, the tornado appears to grow even larger, and as the tornado progresses,
it's gotten fatter, chat.
Briefly disappears. The beast emerges. The next image, however, would be one of the most infamous images ever taken of a tornado. The tangle of vortices from the intensifying tornado.
Yo! Okay, you actually see two legs. That's crazy! You do see the two legs, like they're walking, like, oh, it kind of looks like they're carrying a pickaxe too, kind of. Oh yeah, two legs and like a scythe, kind of like what the Grim Reaper usually hold, bro.
Paint the picture of legs in motion, as if the tornado is walking. This type of image dates back centuries to ancient urban
Reaper
legend.
tornado!
It is called a dead man walking tornado. Not only is this a terrifying description, but it would morbidly allude to what was about to occur. In mere minutes, the tornado would practically walk into Jarrell.
Because that is not Photoshop at all. That is like the real image that they capture on camera.
Walk into Jarrell. Almost immediately, as the dead man walking image is taken, the tornado begins to tear up the ground.
Oh, he's running. He's not walking, bro.
Scoured away, exposing the bedrock.
Dead man running
is showing that in some strange evolution, the tornado has now become incredibly strong and violent. In a different field, a herd of cows are caught in the tornado. Cotton plants ripped up by the tornado now contribute to a sandblasting effect, where anything or anyone caught in the tornado will suffer bits of vegetation and dirt, rapidly scoring against it like sandpaper. The cows in this field, subjected to the force,
pull the cows, man!
By the wind and debris, in some cases down to the bone. If this could happen to a cow, imagine what would happen to a human in these winds.
No,
during
like
this initial display of power, the first home is hit and reduced to pieces.
Jesus.
Here, the storm shelter of the property is its 5-inch thick concrete roof torn off.
No one can stand a
never
chance
found again. Fortunately, no one was home at the time. The tornado then moves onward towards a farmstead on County Road 308, obliterating all structures located there, including a barn, multiple grain silos, and a home. Luckily, no fatalities or injuries were reported here, suggesting no one was home at this property either. With all the thick soil.
But if they have the barn, they would have all the animals though, like horses, chicken, pigs, you know?
Being gouged out of the ground, the tornado quickly gains an ominous black color. The funnel grows steadily, swallowing up an increasing vast area of land. It isn't long until the tornado is approaching 3/4 of a mile in width and is now crossing into a subdivision named Double Creek Estates. Sirens have been blaring for over 10 minutes, allowing the residents to find appropriate shelter. 5 members of the Igo family arrive home to take shelter.
I am really curious if folks that live in Texas, Oklahoma, do you guys have like bunker or basement to like hide? Because I feel like it happens so much. And if you are born there or if you're moving there, I feel like most people are prepared for the worst. So they would have like built-in bunkers, basement or something, because these tornadoes gonna happen more. It doesn't just stop in like, this one is the 1997, but I can imagine the tornadoes happen very often.
The tornado is only minutes away. At this point, the tornado appears less like a conventional funnel and more like a monstrous fist dragging itself across the ground directly towards the subdivision. Their last view before they slam their door is the rolling cloud of debris beginning to consume the nearby recycling plant. As the Igo family hurries into the central room of their home, the most appropriate shelter at their disposal, they can only pray it is enough to protect them from the worsening conditions outside. Meanwhile, at the recycling plant, all hell is being let loose.
Oh my God.
Steel beams are warped and snapped. Nearby roads are subjected to such extreme winds. Over 500 feet of asphalt is stripped away as the forward movement of the tornado begins to slow. The cloud of steel and mud begins to envelop the Igos. The sandblasting effect of the winds smashes in their windows and allows the torrent of air to begin tearing apart the structure. In an extremely horrifying turn of events, the tornado begins to slow down until it's practically stationary over the home.
That's the worst part, you're right.
Allowing the strongest winds to pound and tear their home.
Oh my God, you're right, because at least if it was moving a little bit fast, it would be passing through different places. But now it's just spinning in one space.
The effect is much the same as a huge power washer, scouring the paint from their car before crushing and mangling it to the point where you can't even
if it's going slow, it has its pros and cons. Pro is allows time for people to get to cover. Con is will stay over people's house longer, allowing to deal more damage. That's true. At least it is slow, so if you're like in the car driving by its path, maybe you can outrun it.
It's a car, and disassembling the home's walls before reducing the bricks to
I will seek shelter, chat.
It is minutes before the winds subside, but no mercy is ever given to the Igo family, as all 5 do not survive. The tornado slowly crawls forward, no faster than a walking pace, towards its next target, the Mo-Ring.
Why are they so slow?
John and Michael Ruiz, realizing their trailer home will offer no safety from the approaching winds, rush to the neighboring Mo-Ring family to shelter with them. Lacking an underground shelter, they quickly head to the most interior room of the well-built brick home. But tragically, much like the Igo family, the tornado shows no mercy. Within seconds, the walls cave in upon the 6 victims, pinning them as pieces of rebar, grass, and wood.
Yeah, I was thinking because it's so slow, even if you have a bunker or a basement, I feel like it definitely can reach you a lot more than the other tornadoes.
Down on them. Before long, the debris itself is bombarded with such ferocity that
Take
no
shelter,
large objects even remain.
If you have
Within the
shelter...
chaos, all 6 individuals are killed.
This
and
was a
left buried
house?
In a pile.
Yo, Chad, this was a house. Yeah, like I said. Because it's moving so slow. It does the most, like everything's gone!
Of basically brick and wood powder.
No.
To the north and south of the same
No
road.
longer
the
even a
tragedy
structure.
continued. To the south, Cindy Smith and her 2 daughters perish as the home they are sheltering in is lifted into the air by the tornado. The home was obliterated so significantly, no discernible debris remains in the area. Simultaneously to the north, the LaFrance family is sheltering in their bathroom as their roof is ejected into the sky. The father, Billy, feels the winds beginning to tug on him, causing him to grasp to the sides of the bathtub in an attempt to continue shielding his daughter and his wife Debbie. The last thing Debbie sees before the house crumbles onto her is her husband slipping away into the darkness.
But he's
As the bathtub
protecting
becomes
his
mobile,
daughter!
She embraces her daughter in an attempt to save her, but
Oh my
quickly loses
God.
consciousness. Because there are nearly no storm shelters in the Double Creek subdivision, these families had no other
shelter,
choice than to try
yeah.
and survive the storm above ground. However, a select few have the fortune of a storm cellar on their property. 6 members of the Hernandez family seek refuge in their storm cellar as their home was swept away above them, whilst those seeking above ground shelter in the neighboring homes do not survive. At a different storm shelter, Michael Vrana, along with 18 other people, sit cramped and in fear as the winds howl above them. Many fear the cellar door will be torn off as the roar of the winds climb.
Keep in mind that this is 1997. Nowadays, I feel like shelter are probably built a bit better because it's 2025, right? I hope the bunkers are built a lot better to sustain the types of tornado.
And climb. Thankfully, the tornado passes by without incident, and everyone in the shelter survives without a scratch. Without these 2 storm cellars in Double Creek, there's no doubt that many more people would have died. Although no more than 25 structures are impacted.
Hopefully, 28 years later, bro.
By the time the vortex
you would think
leaves
it's
the community,
better.
the damage at directly impacted homes is incredible. Even among the most powerful tornadoes, debris from the destroyed homes indicates to an observer that there was once a structure located there. In Double Creek Estates, this is not the case. To someone viewing the aftermath, most would assume the area was never developed in the first place. Where homes once stood, only bare foundation slabs remain. Not even the plumbing is spared, as in many cases, it has been ripped up from deep within the concrete and shredded. Although the destruction is clearly attributed to the insane winds,
I feel like tornadoes would be more damaging now because of the cheap materials used for housing. Yeah, I've heard this rumor, I don't know if it's true, but when you buy a new house, when you do inspections, you can find out a lot of things were wrong with the house versus a house that was built in like the 2010s. Even though it's older, but you can ensure that there's no like issues with the house. It passed inspection with no issues.
No doubt that the slow movement of the tornado was a major factor that allowed the tornado to pulverize the community beyond anything in recorded history. While this could undoubtedly be referred to as the worst tornado damage to have ever been inflicted, it arguably isn't even the strongest tornado. But after the tornado finishes
it's called DEADMAN walking.
The time it has before it dies is limited. It meanders to the west towards an unpopulated forest before slowly shriveling up and dissipating. But even before the tornado is gone, first responders and EMT crews are rushing to the hellish scene to help survivors. When they enter Double Creek, they discover that there's little hope that anyone in the path survive. In the core of the damage path, it is found that the survival rate above ground was 0%. First responders are joined by civilian volunteers and what is now victim recovery. At first, the search didn't find anyone. It isn't until closer inspection that the remains of the victims are identified. The identities of the deceased can only be found through use of dental records. As a seemingly futile search...
Oh my god, only dental record because the remains are probably not in the same pieces, you know?
For survivors continues. The unbelievable occurs. By a peach tree just north of the core of the damage, Debbie LaFrance is found badly injured, but still alive. To this day, she maintains that if this tree, located in her backyard,
we got some
there,
survivors though.
The miracle continues, as just down the road, her daughter is also found injured, but alive.
Let's
sitting
go!
on the ground hundreds of feet
She's
from
alive!
where her home once stood. Unfortunately, Billy, who protected Debbie and his daughter in their bathtub, did
not all
survive.
hero wear
In the
capes.
years following the tornado, Double Creek Estates would rebuild, but a large void had been left in the tornado's wake. 3 entire families had been killed, as well as 13 children. In memory of the victims of May 27, 1997, the Jarrell Memorial Park was established and funded by relatives of the Igo family. The park itself resides on the former site of the Igo family home. 27 trees that line the entrance represent the 27 victims that died that day.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, they were called the Dead Man Walking tornadoes, so